Do you want to pick this up today? You're going to pay the whole lot. You're paying cash?
Yes.
The way it works is that people bring in different articles, TVs, videos, forestry equipment, a little bit of jewellery, not a lot of jewellery. The interest rate is half, so half of what they borrow, they pay back. What colour, Elizabeth?
Black.
Oh dear.
You pay back an extra 20. It helps.
Now, after a month, if they don't pick them up, we give them another week and then we put it out on sale at quite a large profit, which isn't the best. It's a good business to be in, actually.
New Zealand var engang et velfærdssamfund på højde med Danmark. Det er det ikke længere. Økonomiske og sociale eksperimenter har på få år sendt New Zealand langt ned ad rangstigen blandt verdens rigeste lande. Den nuværende Labour-regering står over for en kæmpe opgave. Den skal bringe landet i balance igen.
From the very successful welfare state that we had in New Zealand to what we've got now is a huge quantum gap. And as I say, it isn't at times all that obvious.
When I was little, New Zealand was the best place on earth to be.
Well, when I came to New Zealand 45 years ago from Ireland, I thought the country was like heaven.
There was no unemployment.
There was travelling allowance.
We had plenty to eat.
3 weeks holidays.
We had free apples in schools.
Get along quite securely.
We got everything at a cheap rate.
But now you can't have a holiday. You can't take your kids anywhere.
And I never thought I'd ever hear it when they were going, Mum, we're poor.
Regeringen gav markedskræfterne frie hænder. Det var en del af den såkaldte moderniseringspolitik. Der blev solgt ud af offentlig ejendom, skove, teleselskaber, energisektoren og jernbaner.
The Otahuhu Railway Workshops was a city within a city, a society within a society. There was 1,800 people here who done everything from every trade, from blacksmiths to fitters to turners to carpenters to any trade that you'd like to name was here. At 55, you got a pension of 2/3 of your wages for the rest of your life. When you died, your wife got it until she died.
We've sold all sorts of stuff off, and I mean, if you want to see what happens, there is just this incredible view. I just drove past it tonight of the local railway station. Now, the local railway line here is under threat of closure. And you drive over the railway lines and you look down at this neglected railway station, and the lines have all got weeds growing up through them. And I looked at that tonight and I thought, well, that's what's happened.
It was quite busy, a bustling nerve centre, if you like. At least 15 people would have worked in that building. Now today it's leased from Transrail by the Gisborne City Vintage Railway. That was providing a service to the country. Now it doesn't provide that service simply because they have to make the dollar.
When we had the so-called Labor government elected in 1984, they never told us about their evil economic policy. They were elected and they brought in this policy of corporatisation and privatisation. So it wasn't that government that sold this place, but they corporatised it. And corporatisation, Danes must be aware of this, is the first step towards privatisation. Because once they corporatise it, they get it profitable, they take away the public service, they take away the rights of workers, they then have it running very efficiently, then it becomes a very attractive unit for somebody to buy. It's got to be an attractive unit financially to buy, otherwise you can't sell a blessed thing, can you? So this is what happened here. The whole of the railway facility in New Zealand was sold for 400 million New Zealand dollars, which is about 200 million US dollars. Wisconsin Railway, which initially bought this in 1992, I think it was, paid the same price for the rail services of New Zealand as what they'd just previously bought for 70 miles of track in America. So 70 miles of track in America equaled the whole stock and rail of New Zealand. So not a bad buy.
Most of the people, good people, good workers, chose to leave. They must have had a bit of foresight as to what would happen, and consequently they lost most of their brains, if you like. People chose to leave.
It's being cut up and fit in to the boilers for scrap metal in the scrap steel works next door. And I think that's a reflection of what's happened to our proud New Zealand railways.
Overgangen til markedsøkonomi førte til skrotning af tusindvis af arbejdspladser, og fattigdommen voksede.
Housing has just been a huge issue of poverty through these changes. People could access housing through the government, and they paid a maximum of 25% of their income out in rent. Now, part of the economic miracle was that, oh no, we're going to move that subsidy there and hand that subsidy out to everybody on a low income in rental accommodation, and we're going to move to market rents.
I live in a state house, a government house. I've been in it for 45 years. I've always been a low-income family man, a working man, and I'm bringing up my second family. She's good. She doesn't bite me. I hope not. Or she can catch me by the throat. There's no hospital service now, so I'll be waiting for hours there with a ferret hanging out of my throat. Our house is a bit clogged here, typical working class house. Can't move. We can't move out in the bigger premises. What happened here was this all working class area around here. And when they brought in market rents, anybody with money could come in. They pulled all the houses down in 2 streets and changed the name of it. There was Esperance, Madeleine Avenue. They knocked the houses down, put up flash houses and called it Mount Taylor, give it an upper class name to the street. Have a look at this here. The yuppies have moved in and they're upmarketing the whole area. It's definitely changed all right. When I lost my son, everybody came here, Maoris, and had their waiatas and had their songs and supportive, but then people have moved away now because of market rents and the downturn in the so-called wonderful economy, Roger Douglas economy.
Roger Douglas var Labours finansminister midt i 80'erne. Han lagde navn til det økonomiske begreb Rogernomics. Rogernomics betød, at støtte fra staten og huslejekontrol blev afskaffet. De stigende huslejer gjorde, at mange måtte gå fra hus og hjem.
We have 3 families in one house because the housing is so hard to come by now, especially. But in the past, it's how we helped each other out. We invite our families, we tell them to stay until they can get themselves a place to stay, or we take on the children of other people.
What has happened is that people who are living with financial hardship tend to live in certain areas. So you need to be able to go off the main route, if you like, to see those kind of areas. They're not going to be visible to you in just a drive through.
Hurry up, I got the guitar. Okay, okay, okay,
poverty. As I say, you can't see it. The houses look good, but within the houses,
Am I beautiful?
you're beautiful, darling. Just so beautiful. So we go outside and be even more beautiful. Hey. That was so lovely. Sometimes the parents aren't able to provide even the food that is needed for the mouths of those same children. But because of the pride we have in who we are, not many people see it. It's kept, shall I say, like myself, when I knew this was going to happen, I became like, oh, no, they're going to see what I haven't got. And I had to, and I've sort of sat there and I've said, no, what I have, I'm quite happy with what I have. It's only because it's been exposed that it's become a problem, you know.
At least I can enjoy one of the fruits of my labours. We planted these grapes the first year we shifted in. 20 years ago, I was on $12 an hour. Today I'm still on $12 an hour.
I said to Bruce, look, there's a deli there, we'll go and have a cup of tea and sit outside. The lady says to him, what do you want? He says, a tall black, which to me is pretty self-explanatory. Bruce says to me, what the hell do you call that? I says, it's what you ordered, it's a tall black. He says, well, where's the bloody coffee?
It was like that, like a doll's cup. Disgusted.
Bruce ordered.
He was embarrassed and I was disgusted. I'd expect to take the cup home with me for that price.
Yeah.
The way I look at it is I've driven my truck for an hour and a half to pay for that cup of coffee.
Yeah. So
it just doesn't make sense to me. This is my baby Diva. She's our security system.
2001 wasn't a good year for us financially. Bruce had an accident, a guy got killed and he couldn't work for a while, which left us on one income. Once Bruce was employed again, we tried negotiating with the bank to catch up on the arrears. The bank weren't interested. They sold our house in November, right on Christmas, for $30,000 less than we bought it for 17 years ago. Now we've got to decide whether we want to pay an extra 20-odd thousand for the same house and start again, or just carry on renting it off somebody else.
I got a $30,000 debt on the house and it's not my house. What am I paying $30,000 for? That makes me sometimes feel like just going bush. I could quite happily go bush, just live in the bush, have a garden in the bush. Bit of a fantasy, I suppose, but...
You can't compare poverty here with poverty in the African continent, say. It's poverty from the conditions that we all grew up in, people who've been here who grew up in that period of full employment, in that period when people looked after each other. So you've got, I think, the view of poverty is broader.
I can easily remember saying when a packet of cigarettes reached $5 an hour, $5 a packet, I was going to knock off. Well, here they are, $10 a packet. Everything's gone up. The milk's gone up, bread's gone up, petrol's gone up.
I get $385 for a 40-hour week, and I pay $140 a week tax. 5 people will cost $140 a week without meat and veggies. That's just your basic.
We'll sit at their table there and we'll say, pass the knife, because we all share the same, well, 1 or 2 knives, or, you know, and stuff like that. So the poverty is, even though the houses look good and they may, in some cases, have a car outside, but their car may not be going. Bernie. 1 second. Quick, get to the toilet. Go toilet. Go. Go. Quickly. You stay there, young man. Taiwan, Nanny, get your bottle. Bottle time. Because my daughter, the mother of my children, has a mental problem, and she doesn't live with us, but she does visit every so often now.
When this? Oh, it's not my mainstream.
Monday morning on the radio, they were saying that Queen Street was quite dangerous because of the mental people walking around the streets. There's quite a lot of mentally ill people. And they closed down the hospitals, and they said they get community people to live in the community. But no, there's no follow-up for the mental patients, so they're walking around.
I was driving past an ordinary hospital, and they have a psychiatric ward there, and a patient had attempted suicide several times, and I'd just pulled away from a set of lights. I saw this bloke in the bus stop. I saw him jump, and I thought, shit, this is going to be close. And then I felt the bumps as I ran his head over. I jumped out and ran back. I knew before I even got out of my truck that I'd killed him. And
No, he was dead. You didn't kill him.
And when I saw his body on the ground and his head, I went into the bus stop where he was sitting a minute earlier and thought, shit, I've just killed this guy.
The cost of doctors have gone up. My doctor, he went from $15 up to $37, and it's the open market, it's the free market. They can charge whatever they like.
All my sons were born asthmatics. My eldest son and my youngest one, they're both still asthmatics. My middle son grew out of it. But to take them to a doctor, a regular doctor, and get their medication, I'm looking at $100 each. You know, sometimes it's to the point where they have to share an inhaler.
Well, we've certainly been on quite a merry-go-round, really, and I mean, basically, we've gone full circle. The health reforms came along and health became a business, and profit was the goal.
Da den borgerlige regering kom til i starten af 90'erne, kom turen til sundhedssektoren. Men før sygehusene kunne privatiseres, skulle de gøres til en rentabel forretning.
It was actually a company. The boards of directors were totally appointed. You had no community input from the grassroots in any way. The fear in New Zealand was that was being set up to privatise the total service because the Rogernomics had privatised all the other services we had in the country. A lot of people made redundant. The next thing, there was all sorts of changes. Morale dropped dramatically in the health sector. The staffing changes were immense, and the cost of those staffing changes were incredible.
People became really demoralised. They were forced into going against their values and their philosophies. Many of really skilled, good people left.
Okay, thank you. I just didn't want to be part of that scene, so I decided that I'd take the option of being paid out. The National Health Service in the UK had experienced a similar process, and in the first year, 70% of the top management had gone. They could not make it work as a profit model or a business model. New Zealand was almost exactly the same. Got one of the surviving staff over there. How are you? All right? Health just simply cannot be treated like that. You can be business-like, you can treat people like a customer, and so you should. But you can't treat it as a business per se, where you've got profit-making. You can roster everything to happen exactly as you wish.
I think ethically it's immoral to talk about health as a commodity, health as something to be making a profit out of people's illness. It means that you're actually, it's almost a positive incentive to keep people sick because more profit will be made. I mean, that is ethically repugnant to me.
Refer you on. We used to have a doctor that came out here 5 days a week, but over a period of time it was 1 day a week until now there's nothing.
When hospital services were reduced and taken away from their local area, then the people ended up having to pay themselves for their transport.
The people out here were about 50 kilometres away from town, and since the bus has stopped running from running to town, we've also been unable to get our people into town to see a doctor.
Most of our public hospitals see between 12 to 13% of their population base in any 1 year. Here, in our public hospital in Whangarei, we see 45% of the population in 1 year.
Most of us took our children straight to the hospitals. We wouldn't take them to the doctors because it was too expensive, and so was the medication that we had to get from the chemist shops.
We have recently had a group of 11 in a family who have THB. We've found, I think it's up to 25 people with TB. So there's definitely a spread of third world diseases.
We're trying to work on a system to go back where we were, where the people where the people could go to their doctors and get their children seen to for nothing, especially the children and our elderly. Yeah.
You can't even walk to the bathroom and back? No? Okay, how do you get around? Do you have a walker, a wheelchair?
Yeah.
Which one? A walker?
Wheelchair.
Come sit up again for me. Let me take a listen to you.
Oh.
All the aged care wards within the public hospital system throughout the north have been sold to private enterprise. We were able initially to ensure that our staff who went across into the private sector kept their good wages and conditions, but every time a contract expired and we had to renegotiate another one, more and more conditions were cut off.
So what we've done is a huge circle costing mega millions of dollars, and we're back to what was tried to be said was an ideal way to go.
I mean, the most sensible thing for any country to do is to look around. I mean, we don't do any project without reviewing the literature and thinking about whether something works. Well, for a health system, you know, learn the lessons, look around, and this clearly has not worked.
We've got a system whereby you amass a debt for your education, and in New Zealand, if you continue to work here, you pay it back. We also train our people to what I believe is a very high standard, and it makes them in demand almost worldwide. So we train them. They have a huge debt if they stay here and not a great income. So they're very quick to move out.
I find it absolutely ironic because the whole sort of philosophy behind moving to user pays in education was that education is a private good. It's not a community good, therefore you must pay for it. But what's happening to our society now is the private good is having to go overseas. So the chickens come home to roost there. The community is missing out on the community good because the philosophy was that it wasn't a community good in the first place.
when you're living in households that are under a lot of stress, it's very hard for you to maintain a positive attitude or to enjoy childhood as it used to be. When I grow up, I'm going to be a this and that, or I'm going here and there. And it's really sad now, because to actually get with our kids now and to hear their dreaming or to try and put that spark in, for a lot of them it's not real. Yeah.
Well, I've got 3 kids. 2 are still at school. 1 needs a uniform, and school fees and school books and trips, you know, whatever trips they go on, you've got to pay for those. So to enable me to do that, something has to be put on hold so that they can still get an education. I don't work one job, I've just taken on a second job. I'd love to give up work. My youngest son needs me, but there's no way we could do that. Caleb is a problem child. I'll quite often get phone calls in the morning, come and pick him up, you know, he's run away, and I'll have to take an hour or 2 off.
A huge sector of people were looking for work and have moved around, and we now have this level of transient children in schools. Sometimes in the first year of schooling they may have had up to 5 or 6 different schools, and one of the fundamentals for learning is you have to feel safe.
They're getting angry, and then we've got a younger generation who's growing up. They're taught one thing, this is the ideal world, and yet here's the real picture. And when you have a look at the future, it doesn't really look that bright. And trying to encourage them that it's for them to take a hold of that future.
Hello, lovely people. John, another banana keeps the
Den borgerlige regering brugte mottoet frihed til at vælge. De kollektive overenskomster blev afløst af individuelle forhandlinger, hvor den enkelte arbejder selv skulle forhandle løn og vilkår.
The law was put, this gives you more freedom, gives you more choice to determine your own wages and conditions. But the reality is everyone knows that the power of an employer with a job over a worker without a job who needs that job, I mean, there is no comparison.
Pretty much you can say what you want, like, okay, I want $12 an hour. He can say, yes, I'll pay that, or I'll give you $11 an hour. You can either take it or go home.
They brought in this Employment Contracts Act, which was the most vicious attack on workers for perhaps a century in New Zealand.
Basically what employers would usually do is entice people off collective contracts onto individual contracts and pay them a little bit extra over the top to entice them. But what the people didn't realise at that stage was once everyone come off a collective contract, there was then no bottom peg for what pay rate there was. So instead of everyone in the industry doing the same work, being on the relatively same pay, you'd find that there's quite huge distinctions in what you get paid for each different type of company. It put a tremendous pressure on the permanent employment within this port, and within the next year there were no longer any permanent employees employed in this port. As of today, there are still no 40-hour guaranteed employees in this port. with work averaging sometimes for casuals can be close to 56 hours a week. So at the moment, we've got guys that have to work 16 hours a day just to try and put food on the table for their families and kids.
There isn't any negotiation. You're given a contract and you have to sign it. It's understood that you don't question your conditions and hours of pay. I've never seen a contract in the last, gosh, 3 years. Maybe no, probably longer than that. We'll go this way. But what you've got to remember about this place is everyone's on an hour's notice. If they don't push for maximum production, they're not kept on. They're down the road. You only have to go to the official statistics in New Zealand. The rate of deaths on job sites in this country has just rocketed. There's no more safety. See, when you pull these out, it's supposed to stop the machine. All the workers work with these going, none of these safeties, because they're on a bonus. If they don't work as fast as they can, they don't get their full amount of pay. Every time they need to change for a different product, it takes about 20 minutes to do it with the doors shut. But without turning the machines off, they actually put their hands inside the works to make the adjustments. They never turn the machines off when they're making adjustments. So that's what happens. And all the responsibility is on the workers, because there's no union at all on the site. There's no safety delegates, there's no union delegates. And everyone here is a casual. I mean, the man who owns this firm is the 4th richest man in New Zealand. He has $500 million personal profit. I mean, personal wealth. The fine at most would be $20,000 for badly injuring a worker here. It's chicken feed. All the safety guards are off. The machine is only supposed to work when this guard is resting on that limit switch. Me and 4 others sacked, just like that, and replaced by people who'd barely worked in the industry before, had done a short course at a technical institute at half the rate. About 3 months after we were laid off, one of those young men was burnt to death. He touched a live wire at a substation in South Auckland. Now, a young man who was only 21, he just got married. He paid for it with his life.
Democracy! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Democracy! When do we want it? Now!
In the eyes of the ruling class in New Zealand, we have complete freedom because governments don't interfere in our lives. And of course we know that's utter rot. When we had governments interfering in our lives, we had a very good society and we had no unemployment and very little crime. I mean, how can you make choices if you ain't got a doll, if you ain't got a standard of living, you ain't got a home, you ain't got nothing, you know? What choice is that?
Even though a Labour government came back, there's still, the workforce have been disheartened. The conditions have been lost on the job sites. The employers are strong, and in many ways the Labour government is captive to the power of the big employers. And it's going to take a long, long struggle in New Zealand to win back those conditions, and those even despite having a Labour government. So I would say to the union leaders in Denmark, encourage your workers as much as possible to oppose these laws.